Hey y'all, you want to set your child up for success? Is your child struggling with a specific subject or need help with the subject? Is your child ahead, not getting challenged enough in class? Well, IXL Learning is an online learning program that enriches your homeschool curriculum. It offers practice in math, English, language arts, science, and social studies while adapting to each child, meeting them where they are. Plus, IXL encourages students to become curious and empowers them to choose how to learn. Look, we homeschool our son. No doubt about it. He's more of a visual learner, and we use IXL, and Cindy teaches him, and there are so many different benefits to the program. It adapts to exactly what he needs in different areas. So IXL is the perfect supplement to your homeschool curriculum. IXL offers interactive practice problems, educational games, lessons, and video tutorials for every topic you're teaching at home. It's easy to use, time-saving. Everything on IXL is organized by grade, subject, topic, and subtopic, making it simple to find activities for the exact skills you're covering. IXL offers instant feedback and explanations of new topics as kids use the program. Kids can explore any topic in any grade level. They aren't forced into a single learning path like they are on other programs. If you're homeschooling your child because they were falling behind or because they were too far ahead like our son, IXL is a great program to help them get the exact support they need. Kids love IXL's positive feedback awards and educational games. IXL is trusted by 15 million students worldwide and has proven to improve performance in over 75 scientific research studies. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And Real Life Real Crime listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/today. Visit IXL.com/today to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price. And don't forget, Real Life Real Crime listeners get 20% off. Y'all, we really do use this product, and it's been a godsend.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. Everybody needs some variety in life. That's what I love about Chumba Casino. They know how to keep things fresh and exciting. All their games are free to play, like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire. You can claim free daily login bonuses, too. And they release new games every week. So spice things up with ChumbaCasino.com now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Listen to that. Nothing beats a vinyl. Some technology just stands the test of time. Our technology not only brings the cool, it also brings the heat. At Mitsubishi Electric, we've been mastering and innovating heat pump technology since 1970. EcoDan, continued innovation in heating for home and business. Mitsubishi Electric, changes for the better.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney prior to and during questioning. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. You understand your rights? Warning. Each episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, will contain descriptions of acts of violence or of a sexual nature and are for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off the internet or from some television show. These facts I'm retelling were presented to me by the victims of the crime or the perpetrators who committed the crimes. My descriptions of the crime scenes are what I saw with my own two eyes. If you are going to get offended, turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. Today, I'm sitting with Detective David Rabalais, retired Detective David Rabalais, in Texas, and we need to talk about some very important things that did and didn't happen in the investigation. And of course, Detective Rabalais was the first or the lead investigator on Courtney Coco's homicide. So you want me to call you David, or?
Call me whatever you want, as long as you call me for supper.
Or don't call you late for dinner, right?
Yeah.
So, so David, if you can, tell me how you got involved, or what you get the call, or just walk me through it.
I was the detective here in Winnie. This was my part of the county to investigate. And one morning, I was in my office early, and we got a call from dispatch that said that there's a possible body on 1406 in the abandoned house. They gave me the address, but I knew where they were talking about. Me and the guy that was working patrol that day went over there, and sure enough, there was a deceased body. It was of a white female. She was unclothed from the waist down, posed with her legs open as if she had been raped or something. At that time, my supervisor, Mike Wheat, had come down, and we were looking at the body, and I noticed a ring on her right hand ring finger, and it was a high school ring. Of course, the body was so swollen; it had been deteriorating, and but it was so swollen we couldn't get the ring off, so we had to cut it off. Once we cut it off, it gave us a name. A name was carved inside the ring, Courtney Coco, and of course on top of that, Alexandria, high school. That's how we knew where she came from and who she was. So right then, the patrolman and Captain Wheat were walking around picking up evidence. There was a few beer bottles. There was a wash rag that was actually outside the building in the grass, and just some other things laying around. We picked up everything, see if we can get fingerprints or DNA or anything off of it. While they were doing that, I called Alexandria PD, and I told them who I was. I told them what I had, and they said that they would have to get me in touch with an investigator. And I said, well, that's fine. I said, tell him I'm waiting. I'm waiting on a call. And about 15, 20 minutes later, a Detective Green called me back, and I told him, we have a body over here from your jurisdiction. This is her name. Do you know her? Oh, yeah, I know her real good. He said, she's just no crackhead, no dopehead. And I said, well, that's not important right now. Right now, it's important that I have her body over here deceased. And it looks like it's been deceased for 3 or 4 days. The way the body, is starting a decomposition. And so that was the end of me and Detective Green's conversation then. Once we got the body picked up, we got the crime scene all done. We got the evidence all tagged and bagged and put up. I went back to my office, and that's when I started making phone calls again to Detective Green.
Well, let me ask you this. When your initial contact with Green, and he said, yeah, we know her, et cetera, at what point did you ask for the search warrant?
Actually, I'm sorry. I went ahead of myself there. When I was on the phone with Green, the original time when I told him we had the body over there, I asked him, I said, can you secure a search warrant and run it on her house, see if we can get any evidence or any clues or anything, out of the house. I don't know if she was murdered in her house. I don't know if she was murdered down the street. I don't know if she was murdered right here in Winnie. I didn't know, but you don't want to leave any loose ends open. I mean, that's a good place to start. And he said he would. He said he would secure the search warrant and he would let me know what they got. Well, it was, if I remember correctly, bear with me, it's been 15 years.
Take your time.
About 3 or 4 days later, I contacted Green again. I asked him, I said, did y'all get a chance to run the search warrant? He said, yes, we did, but we didn't get nothing. He said the comforter was missing off of her bed. And there was an article of clothing, if I'm not mistaken, it was a pair of blue jeans or something that was by the bed on the floor. And he said that's all that we saw that was out of place, or, there wasn't anything else.
So he didn't tell you that he took numerous items from the residence?
No. I found that out much later.
And you went, when I came over here to Winnie 3 weeks ago or whenever it was, and you told me that, then I showed you the stuff that was taken off the search warrant, which was it was numerous Dr. Pepper cans, beer cans, cigarette butts, domino games, cigarette pack, all this different stuff. He didn't tell you that they seized any of that?
No, sir. Not at all.
Okay. And don't you think that would have been important?
That would have been a very important piece of information. Cigarette butts is an excellent way to run DNA because it's got a lot of saliva in it. The Dr. Pepper cans, the beer bottles, all that could have been fingerprinted. The dominoes could have been fingerprinted.
Right.
There was just so many opportunities to further the case right there on all that evidence that they got.
Right.
If he would have told me they had it, I would have gladly drove up there and got it, signed for it, and took it to the Texas State Police Lab and let them do the DNA and the fingerprints.
Right. And as you know, when you do a search warrant and you seize items from the house, at least in the state of Louisiana, we have to do a search warrant return where you list the items that were taken, et cetera, and establishes the chain of custody and validates your search warrant, right?
Also here in Texas, we do the same thing.
Okay. So he just straight up told you they didn't get anything.
Correct. They told me that the comforter was missing off the bed and there was a pair of blue jeans on the floor by the bed. He didn't even say if they took the blue jeans.
Right.
He just said that they were there.
Right. And he said there was nothing to test or.
Right. He said there was, that's all they got is what he said. He just said, look, there was nothing in there. The comforter's missing off the bed. And there was a pair of blue jeans by the bed. And he said, that's about it. That's all that seemed out of place or, that interested us.
And they didn't get anything.
They didn't get anything.
I mean, like you said, and if it was my case, I'd have made a beeline to get that evidence as quickly as
most
possible.
Definitely.
Right?
Most definitely.
So I don't understand that. I mean, it blows my mind, as an investigator. And
it blows my mind and blew my case.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
If I would have had that evidence 15 years ago, this case might have been solved right then.
Right. And especially when it's
because it would tell you who was there with her in her last minutes.
Right.
Who was there.
Right. Right. And okay.
And you had all that evidence and you hid it from me. You kept it from me.
And it's going to be really interesting to see, if it's still in evidence or not. Right.
Yeah. I would be surprised.
So so he doesn't tell you about that. And, did you go to the autopsy?
No, I did not.
Okay. But it was conducted in Beaumont.
Yes.
Right.
Jefferson County Morgue.
Right. And I have the autopsy report, the full report, et cetera. And they did the toxicology on her. And can you tell me what you learned about the autopsy?
The toxicology report is what I was interested in because, there was no obvious cause of death on the body. There was no stab wounds. There was no bullet wounds. There was no ligature marks around the neck. There was no signs of anything. So I thought for sure it had to be in the toxicology. I had earlier had gone to Alexandria and talked to a person of interest. And she told me that her and Courtney had left the domino game, had left Courtney's house, and went down the street to, I can't remember, it was either McDonald's or Sonic, where the person of interest boyfriend was working. They had to go pick him up from work. But he wasn't ready to get off when they got there, so her and Courtney rode around and smoked a bunch of weed and drank beer. And then she told me that after they picked up the boyfriend, that they smoked some more, rolled some more joints and smoked some more weed and drank some more beer.
Right.
Well, I get the toxicology report back, and there's no marijuana. There's a very minute trace of alcohol, but as an investigator, you know that could come from the decomposition of the body.
Right.
It certainly wasn't enough to cause a death.
Right.
If it was ingested, but
and
that's it.
Let me interrupt you and say this, and I have not said this yet on the podcast, but it's a very important fact that when I read the autopsy report, there also, and I don't know who sent it, whether it was you or Texas Rangers or whatever, somebody got a second opinion. And I'll have it and I'll show it to you later. It's a letter from a different lab stating that amount of alcohol that she had in her system could not have killed her because her lungs weighed out at a normal weight. Evident
Right.
If you die of an alcohol overdose, your lungs are heavy.
Real heavy. The pockets in your lungs hold the alcohol.
Right. And so her lungs were weighed by a forensic pathologist who actually had custody of the body. Let's talk about that. Let me back up. When you work in the scene, and you process it for the evidence and everything else. And I mean, tell me about, or let's tell the listeners about, how you secure the body and maintain the chain. When you secure the body, it becomes your piece of evidence. How do you maintain a chain of custody? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah. Here in Texas is what we do is when we have a body, the lead detective, the first officer on the scene, we usually stay with the body until what we call a body car, to come pick up the body and transport it to the morgue. Well, once they pick it up,
but when they pick it up, they bag it and lock it, or
they usually bag it and strap it down on a gurney.
Right. But in Louisiana, when we do it, the bag has like a lock thing with a number on it. It's not a metal lock. Each bag has its individual one. So once it's sealed, then you take a photograph of that. And when when it gets time for the autopsy, you have to match it, make sure it's the right one, that it hasn't been tampered with, et cetera. And they
Right.
cut it open to maintain in the chain of custody. Of course, that's to stop defense attorneys from saying that something was planted afterwards or whatever.
Right.
So,
and you also, I did not, for some reason, I did not go to that autopsy. I usually do. I think Captain Wheat went to it, because I couldn't make it. Also, when they, as you said, as they unlock the bag, they unzip it, they open it, they'll ask, is this your victim?
right.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And then you take pictures as well as the pathologist take pictures.
Right.
And
Maintaining that.
and maintain it in that way.
Yeah.
After the autopsy is done, the morgue will usually call the family to make arrangements to have the body picked up and taken to whatever funeral home they want.
Right.
In this case, being out of state, they had to, I'm sure they sent an ambulance or someone from Louisiana to come down here and pick up the body and take it to the funeral home.
Right. But after the autopsy is complete, then, I mean, it's released basically as a piece of the evidence, right? So they have a burial, et cetera.
And you don't want to hold it too long. Like any piece of evidence, you don't want to hold it too long because it can be, something like that can be sealed in an evidence bag, really sealed to where it can't be tampered with.
Well, during the autopsy, they'll take samples of everything and weigh all the different organs. And we know, and I don't know who did it, but I'm thank God for it every day, that the independent lab thing wrote this letter stating this alcohol level did not kill her because her lungs didn't weigh enough, period. And so we'll get to that. The reason that's important in a little while.
It takes a lot of alcohol to kill you.
It
takes more than just a minute.
Right. I tell this story back when I was in uniform patrol on one of my nights off. I wanted to see, about if I drank so much, I wanted to go into the police department and blow on the intoxilizer. And I did. And I mean, I set it out with a purpose to drink as much as I could in like 2 hours of his beers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I drank like 13 beers. And I was hammered, and I went in and I blew, and I only blew 0.14. And I'm talking about, and I'm a big guy, and I was a lot bigger then, but Courtney was only 110 pounds.
Yeah.
But anyway, it doesn't matter. At this autopsy, the person who actually had eyes on Courtney's body performed the autopsy. They did the drug screen and everything. It's sent off and came back no marijuana in her system and a minute amount of alcohol.
Yeah, no narcotics at all. If I remember correct, there was no narcotics in her system at all.
Nothing.
No marijuana, no nothing, meth or anything.
Which also goes against Green saying she's a crackhead or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So
I would think if I was a crackhead and I was smoking marijuana, that I would also smoke some crack. I mean, you're not just going to smoke marijuana if you're a crackhead, because that crack is so addicting.
Right.
You got to have it.
Right. And then, okay, so autopsy is done. Let's talk about when you went to Alexandria and you talked to the person of interest, and she told you they smoked all this weed. When you and I talked the first time, if I'm not mistaken, you told me you almost like baited her, and you were like, okay, just a little bit of weed or a lot of weed. And you said she was pretty adamant that no, we smoked a bunch of weed.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct. And I put all that in a written statement. I took a written statement from her. Of course, I was writing it as she was dictating it. That's the way we do it here for clarity reasons. Just at the bottom of your statement, we always put that this statement was written as it was dictated by so-and-so.
Right. And you have them sign it.
Have them sign it, and it's notarized.
And was this done in the presence of Detective Cedric Green?
No, it was not. Cedric Green picked up or contacted this person of interest, had her meet us at the station, and then me and her went into just a little separate room by ourselves for me to interview her.
So the first time you go to Alexandria PD and you meet with them or whatever, how did it progress? And what did you feel or not feel? Or
well, the first time I went, first I met with the family, and then I called Cedric Green and told him I was coming up to the PD so we could put our heads together with what we had already. And I showed him the statement that I took from this person of interest, and I told him that there was, according to her, that there was another person of interest who was supposed to be at that time Courtney's boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked Detective Green if he could locate the boyfriend and let me interview him. Well, we went and got in his car. We rode around some of the bad neighborhoods of Alexandria, and he just kept pointing, hey, there's a big crack house, there's a big dope house, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't care. Where does this person of interest hang out? Where do you normally find him? Where does he do his business? That's where I want to go. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if we ever went there or not, because I was never told this is where he or she hangs out.
Let me interrupt you real quick, David. I found out last week when I was interviewing Courtney's sister, when she got notified and she went to the house. First of all, Green just called the mom, Stephanie, and said, your daughter's dead in Texas.
Very unprofessional.
Yeah, I mean, that's just such shit. And then I guess they're calling back or whatever happened. At some point he got up and actually went over to their residence, to being Stephanie's residence, the mom's. And when Courtney's sister shows up later on, and they're talking about that person of interest you were just talking about, the male, and she says, hey, I know where he lives. And he asked Courtney's sister and her boyfriend to go get the address off the house. So he had the address. He knew where the guy lived before you got there. But he never told you that, or he never took you to his house, or
never, or he took me by several houses, but he never said this is where he lives or this is where he hangs out. He was just showing me dope houses, 3 or 4 of them. And I just finally got to the point where, hey, okay, let's go back to the station and see and put our heads together, see what we can get. I asked him, of course, the the way I learned it, the first thing you do in a homicide investigation is clear the family. You clear the people who's closest to the victim,
Right.
friends and family, because 9 out of 10 homicide victims are killed by someone who knows them. So,
Right. Absolutely.
I began to interview the family, the mother, the stepfather, the sister, the grandmother, the aunt, and a couple of friends that had showed up at the house. I kind of interviewed them a little bit, but they were just, you could tell right off the bat they didn't know anything. They were just shocked.
And I'll go ahead and say it in case somebody hadn't listened to it before. Stephanie, Courtney's mom, and her husband, Mr. Bobby, who raised Courtney, were actually at a Hun camp with several witnesses then, and she pretty much was excluded pretty quickly, even though she did submit to 2 voice stress tests at Green's request. Now, which leads us to the next part. Green called Courtney's sister, and he told her, he said, "Hey, look, I got some new information in Courtney's case. I need you to come down here right now." And she was like, "Okay." And she said she hung up and she called her mom and said, "Look, they got information. Are y'all going?" And she's like, Stephanie said, "Nobody called me." But so the sister goes down, and Green brings her in the room. There was a polygraph evidently set up, but she said before that happened, I mean, he just immediately started saying, you killed your sister, you did this, you need to confess, etc. She's like, "I didn't do shit." And it said it went on for over 5 hours, then beating her up on her. Now, you don't do that.
That's ridiculous.
You don't do that, but it's not fair to the polygraph examinee, the person taking the test, or you're requesting to take the test, to jack them up before. You don't interrogate them before the polygraph, because it's not fair.
You got them all worked up. You got their blood pressure up. You got their heart rate up. You got they're nervous. They're probably sweating and thinking, "Hey, this guy thinks I killed my sister."
And she said she requested a glass of water at some point. He wouldn't even let her have a sip of water. And that when it came time to the actual polygraph, and examiner came in and they put the stuff on her, she was like, she has a medical issue, but she's like, "Screw this." And she ripped it off and said, "I'm not doing this." She said she absolutely felt that, he was badgering, and he just wanted her to confess.
Yeah.
And when she was leaving, he said, "If you don't come back at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's going to look like you murdered Courtney." And that's when she left, and she called a family member that was in law enforcement. And he said, "You go back there and you take the polygraph test and you answer yes or no and you tell the truth." So this is something that you didn't know about, and I didn't know about until this past week. I didn't know about this the first time I came over here to Texas to talk to you, that she went back the next morning and she went into a room with a polygraph examiner at 9 o'clock. And this guy is legitimate. I know him through my career as because I'm a polygraph examiner also. And sometimes he even refers clients to me now that I'm retired from law enforcement. So, but she said he treated her like totally professional and like you're supposed to, and explained the process, and they made up the questions, and he ran all the charts and everything. And as soon as he got done, he said her name, and he said, "There's absolutely no doubt in my mind you had nothing to do with Courtney's death. You passed this polygraph test." Now, what does that differ from what Green told you?
Green told me that they polygraphed the sister, or they tried to. They said he didn't tell me anything about the 5-hour interrogation before, none of that. He just told me that they got her into the polygraph room, they hooked her up to the machine, and she freaked out, ripped everything off, said she's not doing it, and ran out. Right. He did not tell me she came back the next morning. He did not tell me she took a polygraph and successfully completed it. But he did tell me that they after she ripped the stuff off, said she wasn't doing it, they got her down to another room and did a voice stress analyzer test. And he told me she failed that. And I'd never heard of that before. Mm-hmm. At that time, it was, I guess, fairly new. And I asked him, what is that? Well, the examiner said, well, it's something new. It's better than the polygraph, blah, 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 blah. And she failed it. And I said, okay. I said, I need to get a copy of your results to put in my case file. Well, I'll get it to you. Well, the next day I came back to Texas, And I gave it a day or two, then I called them back and I said, hey, I need a copy. Can y'all fax it to me or mail it to me? A copy of that voice stress analyzer test. And I never got it. Never got it. Still to this day. I mean, I've been retired 5.5 years, but still to this day, 15 years later,
right,
never received it.
Right. And so I'm going to tell you what the sister said. She took the polygraph that morning. And as you know, a real polygraph test is an hour and a half to 3 hours at a minimum,
right,
just to do it correctly, because you have to calm the person and set the psychological set and get the questions clearly defined, et cetera, explain how the instrument works, et cetera. And it's a tough process, even if you're innocent, right? But what actually happened is when she passed it with the legitimate polygraph examiner, Green came and got her, but he took her to the room with a voice stress test, totally different guy, and then goes aboard her again. And, but she said she took it twice and they said she passed it. Never told her she failed it. Period.
He told me she failed it.
And never produced any kind of report or results.
Never, even the examiner, the guy that was giving the test, he told me she failed it.
Yeah.
But he was kind of following, I got the feeling he was following Green's lead, because when Green said, well, she took this voice stress test and she failed it, I looked up at the examiner. He was standing right there in front of Green's desk, and he was looking at Green. And Green looked at him and said, and then he looked at me and said, she failed it. And then the examiner said, yeah, she failed it. She failed it bad. And that's when I said, okay, I need a copy of that. I need a copy of that. Oh, yeah. We'll get it to you. We'll get it to you.
So, well, and that I want to make it clear for the record, the voice stress examiner is not the same as the polygraph examiner that gave the test that I personally know.
Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Gobble. All Gobble meal kits are pre-prepped. That means less work for you and less waste in your kitchen. Their meal kits include everything you need so you can save time at the store or just skip that trip entirely. I got the box in and I had 3 different meals. I had a Kung Pao chicken, crispy fish tacos, and a beef bourguignon, however you say it. But let me tell you about the classic beef bourguignon. Look, it came with beef pot roast and a beef broth concentrate, red wine demi-glaze, cremini mushrooms, cipollone onions, mashed potatoes, baby carrots, and rosemary thyme butter. It was so easy to make. Literally like 15 minutes it took Cindy. And let me tell you something, all the dishes were fire, but this thing was like a taste explosion in my mouth. It's just unreal. We've got to spend more time together and more time doing the things we love because everything came in this one single box right to my door. So see what a difference Gobble will make for your household. Right now, they're offering my listeners a fantastic limited time deal. You get $120 off across 4 boxes plus free shipping and free cookies. And let me tell you, those cookies, I ate one that was sin baked and it was delicious. Go to gobble.com/real life. That's GOBBLE.com/real life for $120 off your first 4 boxes. This offer is not available on the home site, so don't miss out. This is genius. It's taste explosions in your mouth like you never had. Hey, y'all, let me tell you about Mochi. Mochi is a telehealth platform that connects patients seeking medication-based weight loss treatment with board-certified doctors and dietitians to help them determine the best treatment options to accomplish that goal. Mochi's program is completely virtual, meaning you can access their services anywhere in the United States and you will be meeting with their team online. You deserve doctors that listen. Mochi is dedicated to providing holistic, patient-centered care that prioritizes overall well-being with the goal of transforming how weight management is approached. Mochi Health takes a holistic approach to weight loss that includes visit with board-certified doctors, nutrition consultations, and medications delivered to your door. Science-backed medications including GLP-1s like Ozempic and generic compound versions, affordable and accessible regardless of insurance coverage. With Mochi, their dietitians work hand in hand with your medication to create personalized nutrition plans that fit your lifestyle. Reach your weight loss goals with science-backed, FDA-approved GLP-1 medications and support from real doctors and guidance from registered dietitians and help with making easy and sustainable changes to achieve results. Y'all have seen this. My wife has done it. My brother-in-law has done it. One of my best friends is doing it, and it really is an amazing process that works. So get started at joinmochi.com and use code RLRC to receive $40 off. That's join, JOINMOCHI.com, and use code RLRC to receive $40 off and let Mochi help change your life.
And the voice stress test, like they've said, they've done all the studies since then. And even the Department of Defense and all these famous universities have said you have a better chance of flipping a coin and getting it right than using that. But the one thing that it has going forward, like the polygraph, just having one set up in the room a lot of times gets people to be more truthful.
Right.
But guess what? She was being truthful. Not only did she pass the polygraph, which is in the Department of Defense study shows in the hands of a well-trained, experienced examiner is up to 98% accurate. Okay. And she passes it. They don't tell you about that. And that's, first of all, that she submitted to it. And he tells you she rips the stuff off and she refused. Right. That part is true. What he didn't tell you is she came back voluntarily, submitted to it, passed all the questions. Examiner says you have nothing to do with it.
He also he didn't tell me about the 5-hour interrogation.
Right.
Before that, right there, that's. I'm sorry, it's unheard of. It's unprofessional, and you don't do that before a polygraph.
I mean, but what's the point of having the polygraph?
Yeah, because your polygraph, if I'm not mistaken, works off of your nervous system, your skin, sweat, and your blood pressure.
That's right.
Well, if you've been telling this girl for 5 hours that she killed her sister, her blood pressure is going to be up, her skin is going to be sweaty, her nerves are going to be, and
refusing her water or
food or anything
else, right? And then,
I'd be scared too.
Sure. Absolutely. So he doesn't tell you about the real polygraph. And then he and whoever this guy is, they tell you that she failed.
Correct.
Well, they didn't tell her that. Yeah.
So here we have, we're not even half into the investigation as far as I'm concerned, but we have, Detective Green telling me they didn't get anything off the search warrant. I did not realize, because I never got a copy of the search warrant, which I requested, that it took 3 days to get the search warrant. Yes, the house was taped off, but in 3 days, unless you have a uniformed patrolman or somebody guarding the house, anybody could go in there and tamper with anything.
But the house wasn't even taped off. They didn't tape it off until the day they did the search warrant, which was 3 days later.
I didn't know that either.
The family could verify that for you.
So that left every chance in the world for the guilty party or somebody who knows the guilty party to go in the house and tamper with everything that's in there.
Right. And the family verifies that by saying when they put the tape up and they went and did the search warrant, they didn't take the tape down for 18 days. So they know they had to get permission at some point to go in and get some of her items out.
Right.
But it's just mind boggling. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
I don't either. It's, I don't know. Like you said, it just blows my mind as an investigator. Every case I've ever investigated with dual jurisdictions, I've always had complete honesty and help from the other agency. You always work together. Your brother's in blue.
Right.
Whether this body was found in your jurisdiction or mine, it came from your jurisdiction. You should be just as enthused about solving this case as I am.
Right. Yeah.
The big thing is going to the family and say, hey, got him.
That's it.
Got him. He's in prison.
That's it.
Now you can have some kind of peace and some kind of closure.
And everybody that's a true crime fan or has watched any kind of shows like the first 48 or whatever, they know how crucial those first hours are.
The first hours are.
And
that's when everything's fresh. Just
unbelievable. They don't go in for 3 days and then they don't tell you what they took. And when you go there and you're looking to talk to the other person of interest, which is actually the female's person of interest brother.
Correct.
And was at the time Courtney's boyfriend, and he can't produce him for you. I mean, come on, man. If I know you come into town, you want to talk to somebody, and I've done it. We'll call the narcotics guys in and put them on the street undercover. We're going to find your person.
See, well, we did that. We're a small department. We did all that ourselves. I've done narcotics at another agency, but I knew my turds. I knew who they were.
Your frequent flyers is what I call them, right?
If it's a turd and a no turd zone is what we refer to them over here. But if I have a burglary, I know which 3 or 4 people I need to go to.
Absolutely.
If I have an assault, I know which 2 or 3 old cowboys to go to.
Right.
And you can't make me believe, I'm sorry, you just can't make me believe that Green didn't know where this guy was.
Absolutely.
Or where he hangs out, at least.
We know that he did because the sister gave him the address.
Right.
And
did anybody go to the house, knock on the door, and bring him in and question him?
Who
Not
knows?
as far as I
That's
know.
what I'm saying. Who
Not as far
knows?
as I know.
But he didn't tell you they did.
No, he didn't.
Right?
Nope.
So, tell me, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say at some point you told me when we talked before that you felt like you were being lied to and given the runaround or whatever. Tell me about that and what you ended up doing with the chief or whatever.
Okay. That is correct. At one point I knew that I was being just jerked around. I thought nobody or no police officer who made it to detective can be this illiterate,
right.
this dumb. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what you're right.
For lack of a better word.
But let me say this real quick. And it's important, y'all, that you understand that to make detective, you gotta have some stuff, right? I mean, cause when you're a detective,
you gotta have some street smarts and some street experience, and you got to know.
And your higher ups have to have trust in you, because ultimately, when you're a detective, you're going to be working. Now, look, not everybody is cut out to be a detective. There are people that do their entire careers in uniform patrol, and they're great at it, right? But I always aspired to be a detective. I wanted to be. And I knew when I got there, I learned everything that I could, and I got there for a reason. It wasn't because of my brother-in-law, I was related to the sheriff or anything like that. I mean, I wasn't even from that parish, but I got there by making cases constantly and consistently in great cases. Right. And so, no, Green doesn't make detective by being a dumbass. No. And I mean, there's no way.
No.
And I mean, and we're talking about Alexandria. We're not talking about New York City, where it's so big. He definitely knew who his turds were inside his jurisdiction.
Yeah. I mean, he may not have been able to find him in the next 30 minutes, but in the next day or two, I'm sure he's run across him or got word to him, I need to talk to you or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But at that point, like I said, I kind of figured that I was being jerked around, lied to. So some things that I was being told by the PD, by Green and the boisterous analyzer test operator and some other guys, that some of the stuff I was being told just didn't make sense.
Yeah, you say,
it didn't add up.
You had the intuition that something wasn't right.
And it's like I told you earlier, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but there's a difference between a coon ass and a dumb ass, and I'm a coon ass. Right. I was born and raised in Louisiana.
Right.
And I knew. I said something's not right. So I told Green I wanted to speak to his chief. And if I'm not mistaken, the chief then was a Mr. Cootie.
Right, Cootie, right.
So they took me to talk to the chief, and Green and Bates and another officer, I can't remember his name. He was one who did the voice analyst.
Right. And y'all, real quick, Bates is the purported evidence officer or crime scene guy that did Courtney's search warrant. Also, I don't even know if you knew that, David. But
well, they all went in the chief's office with me, which I kind of felt uncomfortable there because I felt like I was being ganged up on. Right. I need to talk to your chief about your actions. I really don't want you in the room.
Right.
Well, they stayed, and I talked to the chief, and I told him, look, this is a multi-jurisdictional case. I'm doing everything I do, but I cannot work a case in Louisiana from Texas all the time. I can't.
Right.
I've got to have y'all's boots on the ground. I've got to have y'all's ears in the air. Y'all have to help me out. And I just don't feel like these guys are helping me out. I said, I've been lied to a time or two. I said, I think I'm having evidence withheld from me. And, I've just been jerked around and I don't appreciate it. I said, this is my second time to make a trip that my department has paid for meals and motel room and fuel and everything else for me to come up here and try to get this solved so the family can have some closure. And that's all I'm getting is jerked around. Well, the chief then looked at Green, and the way he looked at him was, listen to me, but do what you want to do. Just had that look. He said, y'all need to cooperate with this guy, blah, blah, blah. You need to give him what he wants, work with him. And that was about it. We left the office and nothing changed. The next day I just packed it up and I came back to Texas. I was just wasting my time and everybody else's time being over there. I was not getting any cooperation. I was getting lied to.
And they weren't producing the people that you wanted to talk to.
They weren't producing, witnesses, people of interest that I thought, it sure would have been nice at that time to have the DNA off those cigarette butts and Dr. Pepper cans.
Right.
We could have rounded up a whole lot of people then.
Or to know that they even existed. Do you know what? They told the family, not only did they take the domino game, but they had the cards with the people's names on it.
The scorecards
with the people's names on it that were there that night.
That's crazy.
And nobody ever told you about that.
Nobody ever told me about that. I mean, that's a big whammy right there. That gives you some names. I don't know how many people were there, 3, 4, 5, 6, but that gives you somewhere to start.
Yeah.
The way I was taught, and I'm sure you're the same way, I don't care how little or how insignificant or how unimportant or how unbelievable a tip is. If you get a tip, especially in a homicide case, you either prove it or disprove it.
That's right.
Follow it to the end. You don't just say, that don't mean nothing and throw it out of your mind.
Right.
You document it and you start working it. It may lead you down a rabbit trail to a dead end, but at least okay, that tip didn't pan out. Let's go to the next one. One of these tips are eventually going to pan out.
And another reason you can't exclude anything, because if you do, even if you get the right guy, if you ignore these other tips, the defense attorney is going to tear your ass up.
Right.
They'll be like, well, you had this lead. You had this lead. You had tunnel vision.
Right.
David Rabalais, you had tunnel vision. You weren't worried about anybody but my client.
Right.
So,
and boy, I tell you what, those defense attorneys love to make you look like a dumbass on that stand.
Yeah. That's what they get paid for.
That's
what their mission is. You're right. So you go to Cootie, the chief, and at least you had balls enough to just lay it out while they're still in the room, right? I guess you pissed off at this point. You were like,
yeah, I was very,
yeah.
And because the family kept contacting me, and I'm like, I don't have anything to tell you. I'm sorry.
Right.
I mean, I don't have anything. I'm not getting anything. At first, I kind of withheld it from the family. That stuff was being withheld from me, but eventually, I just started telling them they're lying to me. They're jerking me around. They're not producing evidence that I'm asking for. I'm not getting any cooperation. If I'm not mistaken, Miss Stephanie at that point told me that she knew Chief Cootie personally, and she was going to talk to him. And whether she did or not, I don't know. But if she did, it didn't do any good. I was never contacted or anything again.
Right. Okay. A couple things, and I'm trying to get my brain in order on them. There was a news article from December of 2005 that Jim found, and it was from a station up in Alexandria, and they got, evidently Stephanie or somebody complained, and they went to APD, put the camera in the face and said, "Hey, Jack, what's up with this? I mean, it's been 14 months and y'all haven't done anything, etc." And they actually told the news reporter, "We didn't know we were supposed to be working on this case." And then they evidently called your sheriff, and he said, and it was a quote by him, he said, "Alexandria PD contacted me. They told me they're sending a couple officers down here so we can get this case back on track." Do you know if that ever happened?
I don't have a clue.
But you were still here.
I was still over here, and I was still following leads over here. At the time when she was found over here was during the Rice Festival, which is a huge, huge festival we have over here once a year. I was given tips by people here in Winnie that, we saw her with so-and-so. We saw her with so-and-so, at the Rice Festival, and they left together. And I took these people. There was 2 brothers, and then there was 2 other people, and I can't remember. There may have been a 5th, but anyway, I took them to Houston to the DPS State Police headquarters, and had them polygraphed. I mean, that was the lead. I was going to follow it out.
Right.
Well, they all passed the polygraph with flying colors, no problem.
Yeah. And let me ask you about that real quick. Just like since we started running the podcast and the tip line, you're going to get, like, I'm sure she was on the local news. As a matter of fact, I know she was because I've seen the articles, et cetera. So people are seeing her in a face or whatever and say, oh, I saw her at the Rice Festival or, whatever. Sometimes people just interject themselves or they were trying to get somebody else in trouble or whatever. But
you never know, but you got to follow it.
Sure. So you followed all those leads and it just didn't pan out.
Didn't pan out. Ran into a dead trail, but at least I followed them.
That's right. But don't you think if Alexandria PD ever sent officers down here, they would have wanted to contact the detective that worked the case?
I would think so.
I mean, but to the best of your knowledge, they never showed.
Never showed.
Okay.
Nobody ever came down from Alexandria that I'm aware of.
Well, I mean, if Cedric Green had come down, you'd have known it.
Right.
Or this other guy, whatever his name is. And they're not that big. They don't have
Winnie Stoll area is only about 2,900 population. It's a farming community. There's more land and cows and rice fields than there is people. If two detectives or one detective from another state would have showed up, eventually I would have heard about it.
Yeah, well, they said that the sheriff said that they were coming to the Chambers County Sheriff's Office and they were going to work hand in hand with Chambers County to get it back on track.
Not as far as I know.
Well, exactly. That's not a shocker.
The sheriff's office, main office, is in Anahuac, about 19 miles from here. Where my office is a substation. But if they would have gone to Anahuac, to the sheriff's department, the sheriffs are aware of everything that's going on. We only have 5 detectives. I mean, it's like I said, we're a small department.
Right.
The sheriff would have sent him to me, or the sheriff would have called me and said, hey, come get them. They're here waiting on you.
Right.
I would have known about it.
Right. Exactly. So
if they came to my office, I would have known about it because there's 3 offices in that building, the tax office and the commissioner's office and my office.
Right.
If they would have went to any one of the other 2 and the JP's office, if they would have went to any of the other 3, they'd have sent them across the hall to my office.
Right. Right.
Or when they walked by, I would have seen men with guns on and stuff and thought, okay, well, who's this? Let me go find out.
Something else I want to verify, and it's kind of skipping around, but the family turned in had a meeting with Green at some point, and they gave Courtney's cell phone over and full access to it, the numbers and everything in it. In fact, Stephanie had recorded all the numbers before she gave it in, all her contacts and everything. They had all the phone records. I know because I have copies of it. But when they were handed it in, they asked Green, said, look, we know that Courtney talked to, whoever it was, her sister or whoever it was, or before midnight. And that's the last time the phone was used until 4 something in the morning. And they said, and they wrote it down in notes. This family has taken meticulous notes of everybody they've ever talked to, times, dates, etc. And they wrote it down and said, Green said that was the person of interest. He called the girl's name. That was her. And she was dialing wrong numbers. There's nothing to that. That was her. She was dialing wrong numbers at 4:00 in the morning. Now there were 4 phone calls. 3 of them, that show on the phone log as 1 minute. As you know, you get somebody's voicemail, they're going to charge you for that 1 minute, but there's one person she talked to for 3 minutes. And did they ever tell you about that?
I was never told about that. Never told about that. That would have been there again, just like the evidence in the DNA. That would have been a heck of a trail to start following, I tell you.
Especially, you upset it. You need to take a minute.
No, all right.
It's all right, brother.
It just eats me up. It eats my lunch. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I mean, you're a human being, man. You care about it. And
yeah, I was never told about the phone calls. Whether she dialed wrong numbers or not, I'm going to find out whose number those are, and I'm going to go talk to them.
Well, not only that, why does she have her phone number? Why does she have her phone?
Yeah. Why does she dial 4 numbers at 4:00 in the morning? I mean, who do you have to call at 4:00 in the morning?
It's panic calls.
Unless you're hiding something or you need to hide something or.
Yeah. Well, I know this is hard for you, man. I know
this. That's okay. It's okay.
But it's important, right? And
it's very important. Very important.
I just want to clarify that on that again. My first thought was like you. I would have wanted to talk to whoever it was she talked to. Secondly, I want to know why in the hell do you have Courtney's phone when you're not even with her? Okay. And then here's the deal. Green knew that you had the autopsy results by this time and that you wanted to talk to this girl again and that she had lied to you about, what they were doing in hours up to her death. And he knew it, but he never told you.
Never told me. I told him, I said, y'all need to get this person of interest in the office and hammer her ass because she lied to me in her statement. Said she told me they rode around and smoked weed, and I said there's no marijuana, no narcotics, no obituaries, no nothing in her system whatsoever except for that just minute amount of alcohol. And I said, y'all need to get her in there. I said, if you want me to come up there and do it again, I'll do it again. No, we can do it. We can do it. I never heard another word about it. Never heard another word about it.
I don't get it, man.
And that's something that has just aided me for years too, is that, why did she lie? Why would you sit there and lie about smoking dope? I mean, that's so stupid. If I knew something about a murder, I'd be lying about covering up the murder, not smoking dope.
Right.
I mean, everybody knew, that Courtney did indulge in narcotics once in a while.
And it didn't give you
so
a
that's
reason
not,
to murder.
you don't need to lie to me about that. But it doesn't matter. Like when I called Green and told him that we had the body and this is who it was, he says, oh yeah, I know her. She's an old crackhead. I just thought to myself, maybe so, but she's still somebody's daughter. She's still somebody's sister. She's still somebody's niece, grandchild. I mean, she's still a human being.
That's right. Human being. And she's so loved.
We all make mistakes. Everybody's got skeletons in their closet. They've done stuff in their life that they're not proud of.
Right. And she was so loved and is still so loved. And for the record, there's no proof that she ever was a crackhead that I found out anyway. I'm not saying that she didn't do things that young people do or whatever, but the Green never tells you about the phone records that the girl that you wanted them to go aboard her ass or you would come back to do it yourself. He doesn't tell you about this.
No.
I mean, I don't want to speculate, but if I step outside and look in, say like I'm on a jury and this is a jury trial or something, it just really, if you put up all the stuff, lying about, first of all, delaying 3 days to get the search warrant, lying about what was taken off the search warrant, lying about the polygraph, lying about the voice stress test, not producing Courtney's boyfriend, who was a person of interest. Well,
if you would have got,
it's just too much, man.
If I would have known about the evidence they took out of the house, first of all, the cigarette butts, I'm sure at least you could have gotten at least 3 to 5 different DNAs off the cigarette butts. The 4 phone calls, ping the towers, trace the numbers, do whatever you have to do to find out who owns those numbers right then. And that's 4 numbers, 3 to 5 people with the cigarette butts. Let's just say one person with a Dr. Pepper can, one person with a beer can.
Right.
There's 9, 10, 11 people right there that could have been talked to and interviewed.
Absolutely.
And no telling what information you would have got.
Absolutely.
Because at that point, it was still fresh. And when you start poking around at a fresh homicide and you start getting close.
That's right.
They start getting nervous and then they start lying. Then they start giving each other up a little bit.
That's right.
I don't know. I saw her this time, but so-and-so saw her a little later than that.
That's right. But because you know why? Because the threat of jail, the threat of jail is real then.
The pressure's on because it's fresh in their mind.
Mm-hmm. And 15
years later, they've lied and done so much more that you'll never get the truth out of them.
Right. The totality of circumstances of how they just absolutely blocked you in every way. It's just it's astounding.
It floored me. It still floors me to this day.
But you didn't know about most of it until a couple of weeks ago when I came over.
Correct. About 3 weeks ago when you came over is the first time I ever heard about the phone calls, the evidence seized on the search warrant.
The house not being secured for 3
The house not
days.
being secured for 3 days. It taken them 3 days to do the search warrant. I assume they did it that day, and he was so busy with the case file that I didn't hear from him for 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. I did not realize they didn't run the search warrant for 3 days.
Right.
I mean, that's just crazy.
Right.
There wasn't no sense in doing it. You might as well throw it up and throw it in the garbage.
Exactly. And then the line about the polygraph and the voice stress and everything. So
I don't understand, and people do please understand me. I'm by no means whatsoever bashing police officers. I was one for 27 years. I survived 3 heart attacks in that 27 years from the stress and the pressure and everything from the job mostly, but 99.9% of police officers are genuine people who really care. They do a job to try to help people for not enough money to feed their family.
Exactly.
And to me, that just means a lot. And it's a brotherhood. It's a brotherhood in blue. There's an old saying in law enforcement, Woody, I'm sure you've heard it before. Either we take an ass whooping together or we give an ass whooping together. But you do it together.
That's right.
You're together on everything. You help each other no matter what state you're in, what department you work for.
Right.
And that's what just floors me. To be lied to and omission of evidence is just, I'm still sitting here thinking my mind's just going in circles and I'm getting a headache just thinking about it. Yeah. It's crazy.
And nobody is that incompetent.
No.
Okay. So to me,
if he's that incompetent, he should have never been a uniform officer, much less a detective.
Exactly.
He shouldn't have been a crossing guard.
I don't want to speculate, but I hear like I said, if this was a jury trial and you're looking in and Cedric Green's actions or lack of actions or lying by omission, et cetera, I mean, it doesn't look like negligence, does it? It's not, I made a mistake.
Yeah, I made a boo-boo. It was on purpose. It was purposely done.
Yeah.
There's too many things done for it to be a, oops, I'm sorry, I forgot about that. There was just too many things, too many lies told, too many omissions of information. There was just too many of them to say, oops.
Yeah. And Dave, I want to touch on something, and I know it's going to be tough for you, but it's important. It's really important because of what we're going to do. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. But when I came over here the first time, y'all, and Detective Rabalais and I met, and he told me about it, et cetera. And at the end, he said, Woody, he said, I've worked every kind of bad case you can imagine, from dead babies to, he told me that somebody had shot themselves, whatever, you're bending over the body and the brains are dripping down to the back of your neck, that kind of stuff. He said, I've seen it all. But he told me, he said, this is the one case that I ever had nightmares about. And, then I come and I tell him, and I didn't know everything that he knows now. And, I wanted to reach out to him again. I didn't want to ask you to go on to record that first time, because I could tell you were hurting about it, and then that you were mad about what I had told you. And I was just like, okay, can I just quote you on whatever? I mean, I wasn't going to ask you to, but then a couple of weeks later, last week, as a matter of fact, I get a text, and it's late in the evening, and I'm in Alexandria in the woods, in my little spot, and I get a text, and I wasn't aware of the number because I hadn't programmed your number in, and it says, hey brother, are you up? And I said, yes. And I said, who is this? And he said, it's Detective Rabalais. And so I called him, and I guess just like for the family, even though the hurt's never gone away after all the years, I guess bringing it fresh and current is basically ripping off scabs for everybody. But I mean, can you tell me what's been going on with you? But this doesn't make you weak, man. I mean, it's just,
I'm sorry.
You're a human being.
I'm sorry, but every time I close my eyes, I see that.
Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. The busy holiday season is here, and Uncommon Goods makes it less stressful with incredible hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts to spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted feeling. Hey, y'all, I ordered a super cool piece. It's a candle with a sculpture of LSU's Tiger Stadium on top of it. And each officially licensed laser cut wooden replica features up to 4 layers of detail, creating a bird's eye view of a specific football field, seating section, and more. And every label includes your stadium's name, the team's logo, and school location. And it has a coconut, soy, vegan wax infused with sandalwood smell that creates tailgates and touchdowns scent profile, reminiscent of game day. It's invigorating like fresh cut grass and nostalgic like smoke from a pre-game grill, and calming like the crisp autumn air of a new semester on campus. Y'all, I love it. I have it at the base of my TV, and I'm ready to watch the Tigers play on Saturday night, right? Uncommon Goods. Look, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. And many of their handcrafted products are made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. They even have gifts you can personalize. From holiday hosts and hostess gift to the coolest finds for kids, to hits for everyone from the book lovers to diehard sports fans. Uncommon Goods has something for everyone, not the same old selections you can just find anywhere. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. They've donated more than $3 million to date. So to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/RLRC. That's uncommongoods.com/RLRC for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're all out of the ordinary. Hey ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? Well, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living in our environment right now. It's in your food, your water, the air you breathe, the clothes you wear, your skincare products. They all mess with your hormones. Then there's the natural hormone changes your body goes through, premenopause, menopause. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean you have to suffer through it. The good news is you don't have to suffer through it anymore, because now you have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Hormone Harmony is not just a hormone supporting supplement. It's become a phenomenon. Women can't stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. And the biggest benefit? Well, my wife says it makes her feel like her own self again. And that's what women mention over and over in the reviews. And there are over 30,000 reviews for Hormone Harmony. And for a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use code RLRC at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC for 15% off today. That's happymammoth.com and use code RLRC.
Body.
Courtney's body.
Courtney's body. I see that face decomped. I see the way she's posed to embarrass her, embarrass the family. And it brings it all back. It's like I just started working this case yesterday. And it's just hard to deal with. It eats me up inside that I can't go to the family and say, hey, guess what? I did it. Or we did it. We did it. We got him in jail. He's in jail. Now you can have some peace and some closure about your child or your sister or your granddaughter or whoever she is. It eats my lunch. I've got 4 children. I could not imagine somebody calling me from Louisiana and saying one of my children was dead over there, and the case being botched up so much, and 15 years later, I couldn't imagine it. I just couldn't imagine it.
And
I can't imagine how that family feels, and I feel so strongly for them, and I feel like I failed. I feel like I failed the family because I didn't solve this case. I tried every way I knew, but
you didn't fail, man. You were blocked, and I mean, it gives me goosebumps. If you had done what you done, we wouldn't be this far where we are today, but you didn't fail anything. You were blocked in, every which way possible. In all my years, I've never heard of anything close to this.
I've never experienced anything close to this before in 27 years.
And you know, physically and mentally, I'm just going to ask you, the last couple of weeks, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but what's been going on?
Well, it's just the nightmares are back. They had kind of subsided. I was only having maybe 1 or 2 a month instead of, 3 or 4 a week, but they're back. They're back 2-3 times a week. I wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night, and the dreams are so real. I don't know if you've ever had a dream that was so real. When you open your eyes, you're looking around for the...
Yes.
That's what I do. I jump out of bed. Yeah. I'm shaking, I'm sweating, and I'm looking for Courtney's body. Like, golly. And it's just... my doctor had to prescribe some medication for depression and for anxiety. Just here in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Well,
and it helps some, but it still doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't get it. It's not going to go away for me until this case is solved.
Yeah.
Or I die, whichever comes first.
Right. Well, hopefully we solve it first, and so the nightmares and the anxiety and the depression. I mean, and especially having this last couple of weeks, and you know that you could have done so much more, but you knew it all these years, but you felt you beat yourself up over it. But now
anybody could have. A monkey could have done so much more if they would have had the information that was available.
And now you know that you were cock blocked, and it's heartbreaking, man. I'm sorry.
It is. I mean, it's just horrible. It's horrible not to be able to go to someone's mother or grandmother and sister and say, it's done. It's a done deal.
It's horrible for you to have to worry about closing your eyes because you're going to have a nightmare again. And I know what you're talking about.
I've also had to be prescribed medicine for sleep because I'd stay up 2 or 3 nights at a time.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. But I know what you're talking about when the nightmare is so real that you wake up and you can't, it's like you can't get the dream out of your head even after you woke up. It's so real that it's hurting you.
It does.
And it's a damn shame.
2 o'clock in the morning, you're splashing cold water on your face and walk outside to smoke a cigarette just to think, wow, what happened? What happened?
Yeah.
And then you lay in bed again to try to go back to sleep, and you can't.
Right.
I found myself sweeping and mopping and cleaning house at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning just because I couldn't go back to sleep, and I'm trying to keep my mind busy.
Trying to get Courtney out of your mind.
Right.
And that's, to have to, I know going on scenes like that and seeing the horrible things that we've seen, that I guess I know you have to have somewhat of this ability also. I've had the ability on 99.9% of them. I can just block it out. I don't ever think about it unless I drive by that place or whatever, and then it'll pop into my head what I saw, right? Otherwise, I don't know how I would deal with it. But for you,
I had as an investigator, I had an 85% closure rate on my cases.
Wow.
And that's, I don't
that's
know,
unheard
people, I don't know if that's, if you know the national stats, but that's pretty high.
That's high. It's damn high.
That's pretty high, and I was proud of myself for that. And I guess that's why this case just eats me up. It just eats me up. This is the only homicide I've never closed.
Yeah. And well, I'm going to ask you this, and you and I talked about this a little bit already. You have a wealth of knowledge, not only on this case, but in 27 years, et cetera. Now, Jim Raffman and I are, of course, we're not law enforcement any longer, and we're having to work this under the guise of investigative journalists or whatever. But here's the deal. And I really, really, we need your help. And whether it's I can pick up the phone and call you at midnight and say, hey, Dave, what do you think about this? Cause my brain never shuts off. And that's the OCD. I don't wash my hands 1,000 times a day or check locks. I just can't stop my brain.
Right.
And then in this case, somebody put a post on the Facebook page today saying, what do you sounded so tired? on the last episode. I said, well, guess what? I was. I'm sleeping like 2 hours at a time. And it's the first thing I think about when I wake up, and it's the last thing I think about before I go to sleep. Hell, I had been home. I went home the other night. I think I got to stay at my house for 20 hours for the first time in a month. And then I'm back on the road, right? But my wife gets it, and she knows that I'm already left mentally. Like the first time I came over here to see you. But will you please help us?
Oh, no problem.
And
I'm here.
And, it's huge, man, because you know that 2 heads are better than 1 and 3 heads are better than 2. And I think with what Jim does, and he's just the master digger and getting all the details, et cetera. And what I do, and then what your total experience altogether. It's, you know what, dude? It's about solving this.
Different minds work different ways.
That's right.
I may be thinking about this while you're
exactly
thinking about that, and I'm not thinking about that. And you bring it up, and it's like, oh, you know what? I didn't consider that. Didn't think about that. I don't
know that the general public understands that. I mean, you watch TV shows or whatever, and you think it's like this, or whatever, but you don't get
DNA back in 15 minutes, believe me.
Yeah, for real. But some of the best ideas ever that solve the biggest cases are just by sitting around bullshitting just like this. Right. And like you and I were talking, I was telling you some facts before
I used to call it coffee shop information.
Yep, there you go.
You go get you a cup of coffee in a coffee shop or a donut shop. Yes, the police do go to donut shops.
That's funny.
But you get you a cup of coffee, you sit there and you just listen.
Yeah.
If it's in the part of town that your crime is in, you got 3 or 4 burglaries in this part of town. Well, you find you a little, a Waffle House, a donut shop, a coffee house in that part of town, and you just sit and listen, drink your coffee.
Right.
Somebody in there is going to say something that's going to make you go,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. and you don't learn that by chance. That comes from experience.
Right.
Right. So, but I'm pumped, dude, to have you. I mean,
well, I'll do anything that I can do to help.
I know you will.
I don't watch 48 Hours and all that stuff.
I don't either.
I lived it for 27 years. I don't need to watch it.
I watched like one episode and I was like, man, that is exactly like being at work, right? I mean, that's close you can get to work in a homicide. I don't watch the cop shows, and just like the true crime genre, this podcast stuff, I didn't even listen to them because I didn't want to hear it. You know what I mean? And
I understand.
But the hugely important. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. David Rabalais is not going to take this laying down. And he's suffering. I mean, I'm going to just be honest. I mean, he's teared up numerous times since we've been in the room today, et cetera. This is obviously driving him and eating him. I can't imagine if it had been my case and I had to do it all these years. Let me tell you something. He pretty much has to see Courtney's recovery site where her body was found almost every day. And I'm not going to go into any descriptions why, but it's in close vicinity to him. So that's another fact that I'm sure triggers it. But 3 weeks ago, when I came over and I told him about the lie or the things that, I mean, I didn't even know they were lies at the time when I told him about it, or that he didn't know. And then last week when I got to tell him, and then some more stuff today, if I'm just tell you something, we're not done. Okay. And David Rabalais is a fighter, and somebody's going to answer for this. And I won't go into it. We'll go ahead.
I just really believe the good Lord up above is going to put the right information in the right hands for this case to be solved.
Right.
I think it's,
but tell me this, how pissed are you that you found out all this stuff? I mean, what do you think?
First day you came to Texas and you told me this stuff, even after I left you, we were together an hour and a half.
Right.
When I left you, my heart was beating so fast. It's like, when you're a kid and your brother steals your Halloween candy, you're mad and you want to,
Right.
I was just mad. I was upset, and I thought, my God, if this information would have been available to me, I'm not going to say to us because they had it,
Right.
If it would have been available to me, I would have gladly gone to Alexandria and picked up the cigarette butts and the Dr. Pepper cans and taken it to the DPS lab myself.
And phone records. You would have gone out and find out who the
we
people
had an
were.
officer at our department. That's all he did was trace phone records. He could have traced down those numbers. I could
have pinged off the towers.
Said, hey, he could have pinged the towers. I could have called Cedric and him and said, hey, this number belongs to this person. Wrap him up. I want to come talk to him.
If Cedric had been cooperating. And so you're pissed, and then rightfully so. You've been suffering.
And I'm hurt. I'm hurt that a brother officer would do that to me. I really am.
Yeah.
I can't fathom it. I can't understand it.
Yeah. Well,
but to have another officer jerk you around like that, especially on a homicide.
Right.
I mean, I've had officers come up to me when I'm booking a DWI in jail. I've had other officers who were putting somebody in jail come up to me and say, hey, man, that's my sister-in-law.
Right.
Okay,
sure.
Okay.
Right.
But, to just outright lie and omit evidence in a homicide case, especially, is just, I don't even know a word for it. It's just crazy. It's stupid.
Oh.
And my feelings are, the only reason you would do it is because you got something to hide.
There you go.
I may be totally wrong. That's my personal feelings.
But that's what I was saying earlier. If a person sits outside and looks in on this, and somebody said negligence other day, I'm thinking, fuck negligence.
Yeah.
I mean, this is way beyond negligence. And I'm telling you, because I can't say that I know for sure, but if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, whatever, right? But here's the deal. I believe we're going to do this. I mean, yes, we're 15 years behind, but we are getting so much information. A lot of it I told you about earlier, and we're not ready to share that on the podcast yet. But I know one thing, and if whoever the bad people are, when they go down, if there's a law enforcement officer that was covering for them in some type of way, what the hell do you think they're going to do? The first thing
they're going to give him up quick.
They're going to sing to get the better deal.
They're going to throw him under the bus. Hey, let me tell you what he's doing, and it'll be easy on me.
Mm-hmm. And so I hate it, man. But you know what? We're not going to take it. Let you take it lying down. We're actually going to take some measures that have never been taken before, and that I know of. But you know what? What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And if you are so bad out there that you do this and you cause not only an official capacity, you blocking and stopping this homicide investigation, but you are damaging lives. There are people that like Detective Rabalais who are absolutely destroyed by this and still live with it hard after 15 years. And now, since the Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, we've been doing Who Murdered Courtney Coco. The people are hurting again, or the hurts come back to the top of the surface. And Detective Rabalais really is getting the short end of the stick, because he knows. And y'all, I'm telling you, Jim researched Rabelais' career. You heard Jim say the other day his reputation is impeccable, et cetera, but he could have done it. And I believe that, and I'm praying that we'll be able to continue, and that we're going to do it. I think I can't promise it, but I feel better that David's on our team now. But you know what? If you're dirty, we're coming for you. And that could be if you're dirty for Courtney's murder, or if you're dirty and having something to do with stopping the murder from being solved, we're coming.
You know, Woody, one more thing that I left out. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
We even went as far, I don't know if Stephanie ever told you this or not. She hired a psychic.
Yes.
At one time.
Go ahead.
And I even called the psychic and worked with her. The psychic told me that she felt like Courtney was killed in Alexandria and wrapped up in her comforter and hauled off. That's why the comforter was missing off the bed. And she's, I'm trying to do this from memory from 15 years ago. But she needed a picture of the place where she was found. I went and took pictures. I had them developed, and I sent them to her. We worked with her. I worked with her for 3 or 4 days. I mean, it really never gave me any kind of a real good lead to start, but it put some good ideas in my head. But that's how far this family has gone, just to try to get closure.
Right.
And then here you have, just, I'm sorry, but a mosquito bite on a policeman's ass who's blocking everything. It's just, it's ludicrous. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
And the family deserves closure. Courtney deserves to be respected enough for her murderer to be in jail.
Absolutely. For real. Well, I'm sorry for ripping the wounds open, but I'm not sorry that you're going to be with us.
If it'll help,
going forward.
I'll do anything I can do.
And we're going to keep fighting, y'all, and somebody's going to have to answer. And so you heard it here today first. Retired Detective Rabalais is now going to be joining Jim and I on actively working this case. Just like Jim hadn't set foot in Louisiana, but he's doing it every day, doing what he does. Detective Rabalais is going to be here in Texas, but you already heard him. It's all he can think about. And so I'm going to feed him all of the information that we have and everything. And it's going to be a huge asset to us. And I think it's time that somebody's got to answer for the things that were done or not done in this investigation. And we're going to take some action on that, right, David?
Correct.
All right.
Take every action we can.
And we're not going to elaborate on that now, but we're going to do that. And then you're going to hear about it, and everybody's going to hear about what's coming down. So, you got anything else, brother?
Some of the things coming down may really shock you.
That's right. Exactly right.
Make you go, oh.
Yep. And,
wow.
And that's right. And so, one step at a time. And I appreciate you, my brother. And,
no problem.
So y'all, thank you for listening, and, love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. It's got to keep sending in your tips, et cetera. Listen, yesterday I did a little live video on Facebook, and within an hour I had 3 new tips, and 2 of them are very legitimate. So when y'all like it and share it, and you keeping the pressure up, right? And David, I know I told you that they took Courtney's case it's no longer on the cold case. Right. It's now a current active investigation. That is because you lifers out there putting the pressure on.
Is it being investigated by the sheriff's office or by
it's on the sheriff's office website as current number 1. So I would like to believe it's not just an election year. I think they're getting their best guys on it. Like you said, like I know that, and shit, I just can't get away. We got at least a little bit into the investigation last week, but I can't get away from fucking what Green and them did, man. Well, and I'm not bashing them, but shit. I mean, I can't fathom it.
Yeah, you can't get it through your head. It just won't go through. Another thing is that we didn't mention. About 2-3 months ago, the sheriff's office up there sent 2 officers down here to Winnie.
It was about 2 years ago.
2 years, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Right. Sorry, about 2 years ago. And they contacted me. I brought them by the place where she was found. I gave them what information I had. And they said that they were assigned to this case, and that they were going to really work it hard and then see if they could get some, get it solved. Well, a few days later, Detective Isles, I believe his name is,
right,
called me back and told me that they had rerun, or that they ran another toxicology off of Courtney's spleen, not just blood, off of her spleen. And they said that it came back that she was just loaded with narcotics, and that they're closing this case as overdose. And that's just not, I'm sorry, that's not believable. That's not, from the autopsy report that I have, and I have no reason to believe that my pathologist is lying or did it wrong, but That's just not true. That's not true.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're trying to hide. I don't know who they're trying to hide it for. I don't know what's going on over there, but it needs to stop. It needs to stop, and a real investigation needs to be done by somebody who's got the kahunas to step in there and do it, not worry about whose toes he steps on.
That's right. And I don't know if I told you this, David. I mean, they went so far as to come back with the new toxicology report. They took it to a pathologist in Alexandria and had him write up this scathing report about being an overdose and all this stuff. He never saw the body. And he doesn't know the chain of custody on whatever evidence they took in to have tested, whether it was blood or spleen. Now, here's the deal. Got a lot of lifers out there that are in the medical field have given me tons of information. One of my favorites from Houston, and they sent me literature on the spleen is the fastest deteriorating organ in the body. It cannot be tested 12 years later unless it's been deep frozen in like that crypto cryo stuff. I mean, but that's who, I know Chambers County got money for that. and
all the autopsies I saw, as you mentioned earlier, a sample of the liver, a sample of the lungs, a sample of the heart, a sample of the brain, everything, a small sample of every organ in the body is taken, put in formaldehyde in a small plastic, jar with an airtight lid.
Right.
And it's stored. But, if the spleen is, if that's the fastest deteriorating organ in the body, I mean, good Lord, Irene, it's 13 years. It's had plenty of time,
and it's in formaldehyde too. But the other thing is, they told the family that it was her blood, and we have it on record of a conversation with Detective Rabalais. He said it was blood. He even described. He said that we called down there and they had blood. And when we got down there and got the blood and got tested, we're going to get into all that because there's got to be a chain of custody. But regardless, and I hadn't told it until today, there is an independent from Alexandria, independent from Chambers County Sheriff's Office, independent from the pathologist that did the autopsy. There is a report that states that alcohol was not the cause of death and can be proven medically by the weight of her lungs. And look, that new toxicology said she had like over 4 or 5 times the legal amount. That's why I was going back to earlier when I drank 18 beers in less than 2 hours and I only blew a 0.14. They're saying she was over a 0.40.
No.
No way. You would have smelled that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know
the body's decomposing. You smelled that alcohol.
Right. And anyway, well, let's hope those guys are finally doing what they're supposed to do. But guess what? We're not going to stop, and we're going to keep pushing forward and, love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. Real quick, last night, y'all know we were nominated, when we were only 5 months old. We were nominated for People's Choice Podcast of the Year Award. Also in 2 more categories, People's Choice Podcast of the Year Award for Society and Culture and Drama and Storytelling. And I would be remiss if I didn't say this week because we made the finalists. We didn't make the finalists for the one of the year, out of over 750,000 podcasts were eligible for, but we made the finals. The top 10 for society and culture and drama and storytelling. And I literally fell out of my bed in the hotel last night with my wife. I was watching it. It was on live, right? And, I was watching it. And last week as a joke, I did an acceptance speech just recorded that I had to send in. I didn't say the name of the show, but I had to do it. Or if you were a winner, they wouldn't give you the award. Uh-huh. So I did it as a joke when I was in West Monroe last week on working on this case. And it said, and the winner is Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. So when my wife calls in and she's screaming, and, y'all, it's a huge, blessing. And,
that's a very big accomplishment.
Yeah. Well, and then we were only we were only 6 months old at the time that the final panels voted on and everything else. But I want to thank everybody out there for doing it and liking and listening to the show. Y'all please continue to share, especially on Courtney. You see me on there every single time somebody put a post about her. I say, please share, because you never know when it's going to be the right thing. Patron supporters, thank you. I absolutely cannot stay on the road for months plus at a time. I mean, without some kind of support and y'all giving so generously. Some people have donated, and I appreciate that too. If you can't donate, just like us and share us, leave us a review on iTunes, and we appreciate you. And David Rabalais, I appreciate you, my brother. And I look forward to working with you. I look forward to working with you. So thank y'all. And, till next time or ever, I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. Jim is not here today. Sorry, brother. But I assure y'all he's doing his thing. And I'm looking here at my phone since we were recording. I've got like 7 messages from Jim. Jim will be back with us next week. But anyway, don't let us catch you down on Murder by You. Peace.
The Evidence Locker is a weekly podcast about international true crime. Made by hardcore true crime fans, it's somewhat grungy. Join us as we explore the dark corners of the globe. We've covered cases from Sweden, Brazil, Australia, and the US, to mention a few. Find us on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney prior to and during questioning. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. You understand your rights?
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.